for the win! Got it!
Imagine dominating high school basketball, averaging 15 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, and 5 steals a game, leading your team to a perfect 32-1 record and a state championship, creating Ivy League history with over 1,450 points, 487 rebounds, 406 assists, 225 steals. But a player with stats like that goes undrafted? That's Jeremy Lin. In early 2012, Linsanity swept the globe, a Harvard-educated point guard leading the New York Knicks to a 99-92 upset over the New Jersey Nets, igniting a shocking winning streak that dazzled fans and bewildered skeptics. Google even declared him the top trending athlete of the year. But within a few short years, Lin was playing half games and fighting for roster spots in the very league that once idolized him. How does a seemingly unstoppable underdog story take such a sharp turn? And how did Lin himself make sense of it? This is the story of Jeremy Lin's unlikely journey, from being an overlooked kid at Palo Alto High to shattering expectations on the NBA's biggest stage, from enduring slights and slurs off the court to leaning on a steady faith that never wavered. Long before jerseys and stadium lights, Jeremy Lin was just a quiet kid in California with a basketball in hand and a chip on his shoulder. Born in Torrance, California, and raised in Palo Alto by Taiwanese immigrant parents, Lin grew up playing ball at the YMCA and local parks. His parents taught him the game early, and even helped run a youth program in Palo Alto to let him play as much as he wanted. By senior year, Lin was captaining his high school team to a 32-1 record and a California state championship, a Cinderella moment that should have unlocked big college offers. Instead, it did almost the opposite. Despite his obvious talent, almost no big schools came calling. He mailed tapes to Stanford and UCLA, his dream schools, and every Pac-10 coach, but got no scholarship offers. Only Ivy League teams could guarantee him a roster spot, and so Lin ended up choosing Harvard, a place he hadn't even wanted at first. Lin himself admitted he went to Harvard out of 6 months of prayer, convinced God had closed every other door for a reason. In a rare move, Stanford's own boosters later admitted it was really stupid they hadn't recruited the kid who lived just across the street. Once at Harvard, Lin still had to prove himself. Freshman year, he was practically the weakest guy on the court, but he worked tirelessly. By junior year, he led the nation's Ivy League in virtually every stat: points, assists, steals, field goal percentage. He shattered school records and even upset top programs. 27 points against a top 20 UConn team. He quietly became the first Ivy League player ever to finish with at least 1,450 points, 450 rebounds, 400 assists, and 200 steals, feats NBA scouts simply didn't see happening at Harvard. Even so, the NBA draft came and went in 2010 without Jeremy Lin's name called. He was 22, NCAA records in hand, and yet he was left out entirely. The Ivy League stigma and his own slight build seemed to be deciding factors. NBA Commissioner David Stern later speculated Lin was not drafted because he was Asian. It was a gut punch. Lin recalled being crushed at not being signed, but his faith kicked in. He and friends reminded him God is still in control and urged him to keep playing hard in Summer League. Sure enough, after Summer League, Lin got an offer from the Golden State Warriors, his hometown team and childhood favorite. In July 2010, he inked a 2-year minimum deal with Golden State, but opportunity was short-lived. Golden State barely played him, and by October 2011, he was cut from the roster with no opportunity to play. For the first time, Lin found himself on the outside of the NBA, playing in the D-League with the Reno Bighorns. In professional sports terms, he was being told to try again somewhere else. If being undrafted felt devastating, being released like this only deepened the question mark. Through each setback, undrafted, waived, bumped to D-League, Lin leaned on the belief that God had a plan. He recalled Dallas' Donnie Nelson telling him that not being drafted was just another barrier you have to overcome, but God is sovereign, as he invited Lin to a Maverick summer team. And Lin took that to heart. Each no was followed by prayer and resolve. For me, when I get knocked down, I really try to get back up and go at it again. "I don't like to give up," he said. But everything changed in late 2011 with a simple transaction and some injury luck. The Houston Rockets had briefly signed and waived Lin in late 2011. Then, in December 2011, the New York Knicks picked him up off waivers and immediately assigned him to their D-League team, the Erie Bayhawks. On paper, he was still a nobody on the deepest bench. But fate intervened. New York star guards Carmelo Anthony and Iman Shumpert went down with injuries. In February 2012, coach Mike D'Antoni, having dismissed Lin earlier, suddenly put him into a game. Teammates were stunned as Lin exploded for a career-high 28 points and 8 assists. Carmelo himself was so impressed, he told D'Antoni to keep Lin in the lineup. And that was the beginning of Linsanity. Over the next 2 weeks, Lin won 7 straight games as the Knicks' starting point guard. He became the first player in NBA history to record at least 20 points and 7 assists in each of his first 4 starts. Fans were going nuts. Downtown theaters started offering Lin-themed seats. Fans chanted Linsanity on the streets. Jerseys flew off shelves. At one point, Google searches for Lin dwarfed any other name in sports. The Sports Illustrated cover even labeled his story "Against All Odds." Linsanity climaxed in early 2012, but the basketball business is ever moving. Lin became a free agent that summer and signed a big deal with the Houston Rockets. Expectations were sky high for him to build on his New York heroics. Instead, over the next 2 seasons, things began to unravel. With Houston, he had flashes, like a 38-point game in 2013 recalling his Knicks heroics. But consistency eluded him. Coaches and front offices admitted privately they had anticipated far more than Lin delivered. In early 2014, a knee injury torn meniscus ended his season and sidelined him for months. By 2014, the NBA had largely moved on from Jeremy Lin. He was traded from Houston to the Lakers, where he played a limited role before being sent to Charlotte in a deal later criticized as one of the Lakers' worst. Despite some solid performances with the Hornets, Lin couldn't secure a lasting position and continued bouncing between teams. In 2016, he signed with the Brooklyn Nets, seeking stability, but injuries and coaching changes sidelined him again, leading to his release in 2018. One might have expected that such a sudden fall from grace would leave Lin bitter or broken. Instead, he repeatedly spoke about it as part of the plan. Through all the changes, one constant shadow over Lin's journey was the specter of bias. Jeremy Lin is one of the very few Asian American NBA players in history. From middle school through college and the pros, he often encountered casual slights to outright racism. Lin himself has said he never felt like just one of the guys on the court. He was always the Asian basketball player. In fact, early in his career, as a kid showing up to games, he endured taunts like "go back to China," and even jokes that volleyball is after this game. In college, his teammates often heard the racial slurs from their opponents. When Linsanity hit, these ugly undercurrents became national headlines. A Fox Sports writer tweeted a crude sexual stereotype about Lin in 2012 and had to apologize. And even Floyd Mayweather tweeted that Lin's rise was only because he's Asian. Worse yet, ESPN published a headline on Lin's 9th turnover in a game. In the armor. The slur was visible worldwide for 35 minutes before being taken down and prompting an editor's firing. Lin himself reached out to that editor afterwards, saying he didn't believe there was malice, but the incident showed how easily stereotypes could surface. Many commentators and even NBA executives eventually admitted Lin's ethnicity probably hurt his career. Veteran coach Larry Riley said plainly that if Lin had been white, scouts would have assumed he was skilled. If he's Asian, he's good at math, he noted. Seth Stein of Time suggested racial profiling played a role in Lin's under-recruitment. Even Stern said he didn't know whether Lin was overlooked for Harvard or for being Asian. In retrospect, Rockets GM Daryl Morey admitted, "I can't think of any reason for it other than he was Asian." Above everything else, perhaps the most consistent theme in Jeremy Lin's story is faith. He's an evangelical Christian. He often quoted Romans 5:3-5 about suffering building perseverance. He said he believed God was shaping his path. He took bad situations and tough situations and uses those times of suffering to draw us closer to him, as he put it in a 2012 interview. When Linsanity fame arrived, he repeatedly pointed upward. In one Christian news interview, he reminded fans, "I'm not playing for anything on this earth. I'm playing for my prize in heaven. I have to play to glorify God. This sense of purpose kept him grounded when the court let him down. After the world turned its back, Lin didn't vanish quietly. He continued playing, even overseas, with the same heart. In 2019, he briefly joined the Toronto Raptors, earning his first championship ring as the first Asian American to win an NBA title, and then moved to play in China's CBA, where he's still a star with the Beijing Ducks. Through it all, his message remained consistent. Basketball was a gift, but not his identity or ultimate calling. Today, Lin speaks openly about mental health, showing that behind the highlight reels was a person who battled anxiety and fear every step of the way. Teaming up with Alpha Youth Series, he reminds us that even a superstar can feel like an outsider. And now, after years of struggle, he's at peace with whatever comes next, believing that everything else I leave up to God.